childhood, we lived in the countryside in West Fresno. And our neighborhood was composed mostly of Japanese families. They were all related to each other. And they owned a lot of orchards and vineyards all around us as well. It was kind of fun growing up in that environment. Just across the street, like if we were sitting at our kitchen table and looked out the window, was just acres and acres of peach trees that produced wonderful peaches. And during the harvest time, our neighbors were always remembering us and bringing pallets of just giant, juicy peaches that we all loved. Well, you know, that lasted for the duration of the summer. And after the harvest, all of a sudden, we would see one morning just workers in the field pruning back all of those trees. The pruning seemed pretty harsh, and it looked harsh because we look out of our window and we see just like bare trees as far as the eye could see. Trees that were once beautiful and fruitful were cut back in a way that left them looking kind of barren and almost dead. But that only lasted through the winter, because in the spring, once the spring arrived, those trees would begin blossoming beautifully. And then in a few months, bigger peaches would appear once again. Jesus uses the imagery, of course, of agriculture and the cycle of seasons to talk a little bit about how our relationship with him must play out. He uses the imagery of the vine and the branches, which would have been very familiar to the people of his day. He tells us that he is the vine and we are the branches. We have to remain attached to him in order to bear fruit, spiritual fruit. Staying close to the vine means praying faithfully, loving God and neighbor, staying close to the sacraments, and more. If we remain attached to Christ in these ways, we can produce amazing things that contribute to the building up of God's kingdom. Even so, there are times when we need to be pruned, right? Spiritual pruning does away with those aspects of our lives that can be harmful to our spiritual growth. We're pruned, I think, when we become aware of our sins and our failings and allow God to work within us to overcome those sins. Perhaps spiritual pruning can best be described with an attitude of humility. You know, when we humble ourselves before God, he lovingly deals with our sins so that we can be stronger, more productive disciples. Sometimes this pruning can be painful, of course, when we are asked to surrender something that is not healthy for us. But if we can do that, as painful as it is, we know that it will always bring about a greater spiritual strength in our ability to live the Christian life. So as we move into the summer, you know, we will enjoy the fruit of the orchards and the vineyards all around us. But you know, that fruit wouldn't be as enjoyable were it not for the hard work of those who grow it and harvest it. We should be thankful that we have a God who is an expert grower and harvester. He allows goodness to grow within us. He nurtures it in its growth so that it can then be harvested and shared with all his children.